The Molls and Kells show is a show that focuses on social ills and issues that affect individuals and indeed those around them. Today we are talking about child trafficking. As you would recall, the Molls and Kells show is a show that focuses on various societal issues that affect individuals, indeed within communities. Molly, child trafficking, what is it? How can we explain this to Emi Yamuzwana?
The amazing thing, Kelly, is that on the other side we have Bonnie, who is talking to not just an expert but somebody who deals with the situations and who has seen it firsthand. Not just seen, who has actually been part of the solutions for child trafficking and continues to be so even today.
I think it's just appropriate for us to just hand it over to Bonnie then, because this particular individual has more information than us at this point.
Thank you, Molls and Kells. Today it's another exciting episode. Dumela Ma, and welcome to the Molls and Kells show.
Dumela.
Ne ke kopa le ipolele batswana ko gae and what you do.
Ke bidiwa Magogodi Veronica Dabuta. I do many things, so I don't know exactly what I can say I do specifically. But I was a teacher. I did child counseling, child psychology, special education, and I deal with mental health issues, as we've been discussing. But now I work as an executive director of Masiela Trust Fund. I do administration as well as intervention in the communities.
Okay, Madabuta, would you tell me the topic existing here today at child trafficking? So, and tell us what child trafficking is.
Child trafficking exists in Botswana, but we don't know that it exists because we don't understand it. We think being trafficked is from being a child, when a child is taken from one country to the other to work there for sexual exploitation or to work in the farms or whatever. But child trafficking, the common one that's happening in Botswana, is right here, where I start by taking a child from the rural area, the child who is supposed to be going to school. I take her to my home to work for me. Sometimes I don't even pay the child. When my children go to school, this poor child is the one who will be minding my home, washing my clothes, cooking for me. That's a form of trafficking. No child should work under the age of, I don't know whether now the law is 16 or a child should be given a chance to go to school.
Okay, I like the fact that you've brought the issue of child trafficking start hella within us. You know, I grew up in a society where it was believed that Botswana child trafficking only exists during Nagwadi top. You know, they'll be like, Oscar, you're going to be adopted for ritual purposes. That's how I know child trafficking. Is that also a form of trafficking, or is it a way to stay indoors?
Ritual matter anything, because in the past children were killed for parts, but the common one was to use the parts for particular things like getting rich or winning the popoyalo. I don't know much about it, but the children have disappeared and have been killed before. But of late, children disappear, and they disappear for good. And those who disappear for good go to traffic to other countries where they work as sex slaves in brothels. They go with people, but the pimp, sometimes they go with relatives. The pimp, it's only the relatives, uncles, they take the documents, the traveling documents. You should be worried how to go on scholarship or there is work. Maybe the person is willing to sponsor everything. The person is willing to buy you a ticket and give you accommodation. You should be very worried. There is nothing for mahala. When you get there, you go straight into the brothel. Now you are working for yourself. And you'll see different men coming into the brothel every day and at different times.
Okay, so as an expert, I mean, looking at these cases, which gender or and most of the time they're affected by child trafficking, is it the female or male, or is it both?
It's both. It's both because they take them for different purposes. Basimani, females, male children mostly work in farms, but train you for arms, but females, most of them go into brothels. And so they are exploited sexually. And one time I don't know how I can forget that experience. There was an organization working for Human Trafficking in South Africa, a religious organization. So they invited me. I went with them to see what they do in town, in Johannesburg, in Hillbrow. They were helping girls to go back to their home country. So we visited the brothel, and the girls were there doing different things. Boys, gentlemen playing snooker, and then I observed few girls, the movements it's about. So I saw people coming in, different men coming in, taking the child, disappearing with the child. In no time is back. They are back again. She's taken again by somebody else. She's back again, until I just went to that child and said, "How many men do you help in a day?" The girl was saying, if there is no business, it's about 10. But if there's business, it's up to 30. So that's why I say I don't want to remove. I don't know how I can remove that, because sleeping with 30 men in a day, I thought it was just too much. It's barbaric. And if a girl just is taken here, being promised things, education, work, and to end up that way, it's a big thing. So I've seen those things with my own eyes, and I'm working currently with different groups in South Africa to fight human trafficking, to see what they do, because South Africa mostly is the country of destination. It's alleged that Botswana is a transit country. Girls coming from Malawi, from Zambia, they go through Botswana. As you remember, if you can remember, about 14 children were found in a combi one day, and it was intercepted somewhere in the north. Sometimes they carry them in big lorries. They ask them to hide in there. So it's also very risky, the way they travel with them. So, and I saw them in South Africa, what they do in South Africa. I have a video, I'll show it to you sometime, of what happens when children get there.
Okay.
So we should be very, very careful. Trafficking, you might think people are jealous of you when they tell you that. You should be very careful. There's nothing because they start off recruiting you. Imagine, it can be your own relative. It can be a neighbor. It can be somebody from the church. Like a lady we helped in Masiela was recruited all the way to Toronto we had to struggle with her children in Botswana. He was promised a job, but she was lucky because from the word go, she told the people that I was promised a job. I didn't come here to seek asylum, because the traffickers were saying that she should say that she's seeking asylum, and those who were seeking asylum were taken to different buildings, and where their passports, everything was taken. And she says there are so many Botswana abroad who have been trafficked, and they are stuck there because they cannot come home, just because she told the truth that I came here to work. She was lucky. One organization helped her to come back home. And we should remember that it's a syndicate.
Okay, you brought the issue of where a lot of Botswana are being trafficked. But I feel like it's an issue it's happening and it's a lot in our country, but then we are not aware of it as a country. Is it because the government, since we're very much dependent on it, for information, is it not doing its level best to make sure Botswana there is human trafficking in our country, or is it because we are ignorant as a country?
Since 2014, there is the Anti-Trafficking Act. I think they have done well in educating people about trafficking. They are doing well, except internal, the one that's happening inside. It doesn't have to be cross-border. It can be you should not employ children in the first place. So I think that one we should talk more about that one. Children should know their rights. They should know that first and foremost they should be hungry for education. They should want to get educated, not to work for other people, especially when they are not even paid salaries. So the other thing that our government needs to do more is to really go to rural areas, because having worked with, although I heard this week that there are no stateless people, there are stateless people in Botswana. Stateless, we mean people without documents. If you are Botswana but you don't have umang, you don't have document, how can you call yourself Botswana? So mostly these people are from poverty-stricken communities, and they don't have anything to identify them, so that's why we call them stateless. These people also can be moved from one, especially orphans. Orphans, they are not looked after by any communities, by families, so they always go here and there to look for greener pastures. So they are very vulnerable when it comes to trafficking and other social ills like sexual exploitation.
And what help is given to the victims by Longora that have been affected by child trafficking in our country?
No, in our country, we might say that it's not common. The common ones that we see are from other countries. They were caught here while they were going, they were on transit. As I say, the common ones, like people who are taken into our homes, we don't address issues, we don't report, we are not reporting these cases. So if cases are not reported, it's difficult to go into homes and take out those children unless a person comes and say ke bona nkete go hale ga go tsamaye sentle ga gore sen ga re o tla bona ile gore ngwana ga tshwane le ba bangwe. Neighbors will see, but neighbors don't report. And according to the Children's Act, if you are aware of that and you don't report, it's a crime. You can be charged for failure to report. So we just want to say how easy gore gona le bana ba ile gore ba ga ba tsene dikwele ba nna ka mokgobeletsa gang ha go ba nna le monna o iseng sepe sa bona o se tšoro ba tsaka ba le underage. And the sad thing is that some of these children don't even know how old they are, like the ones we are helping in squatter camps. If there are no birth certificate, they are just raped because we thought she was an adult. They will also not provide anything to show their age. But if we have to take it as a responsibility, rona batswana gore tota dilo ha re sa di sa tsamaye sentle ra di bona in our communities, and we should report to the police, social workers, organizations such as Bomasiela Trust Fund, Childline and the like.
Okay.
And it's difficult to just see these cases when o tsamaya mo tseleng unless we want to meditate. Our baba mo ba ya kwa ba tsamaya le batho. When people go with children across the borders and they don't return, they don't tell people, especially children who are not well looked after. No one will care to ask where the child is.
Okay. I've learned a lot. Okay, but it was the topic child trafficking. I mean, she brought a lot of issues into our attention. Issues we've been living with, and we thought it was normal. I'm sure you have learned a lot, and now you're gonna do something about it. You know what? From me, it's a wrap. Now back to you, Molls and Kells.
Wow, thank you so much, Bonnie, and we thank you, Madabuta, for that brilliant, informative, and educative information. Molly, the way I see Madabuta speaking about these issues, you can tell that she's very passionate about them, and she has indeed dealt with these cases, and at a level of very deeper engagement indeed. And the way I understand child trafficking, it is people are procuring and acquiring children for purposes of exploitation. That's how I understand it.
And some of the finer things, Kelly, that she is mentioning that I think ordinarily we would have not thought are part of trafficking. Mm-hmm. You see, I think trafficking then is any form of exploitation for a child. And I'm beginning to feel that not necessarily just for a child, but even we adults can be exploited in the same manner. But why would people want to exploit other people?
I think information is very important, Molly. Some things which we thought were innocent are child trafficking. You know how people would take, that innocent child from that very disadvantaged parent and claiming that they would take care of the child only to throw them at the farms, have them look after their livestock and deny them opportunities that a normal child should have, such as education. That is child trafficking. And I do believe, and we've seen in our growing up, many people doing that, having innocent children take care of their farms, even domesticating them in their homes, having them act like they are maids and doing household duties for them.
There is a way to build awareness. I'm not sure if enough is being done, but obviously based on the interview that we've just seen with Madabuta, people ought to start being careful now. When you are being offered opportunities, just check for that authenticity and make sure that you are receiving a genuine offer, whether it's an offer of a job abroad, even internally. One of the things that came out of that interview that came to mind was that even here in Botswana, sometimes you can be offered a job, promised a certain amount of remuneration, certain conditions, and when you get there, out of desperation, somebody decides to offer you something way less than what you've agreed, and even skip months without paying you your salary. That is exploitation, and for me it befits the definition of trafficking.
Indeed, Molly. And imagine you are far away, you don't have relatives, you don't have anybody to cry out to for help.
Yeah.
Getting back to the child aspect of it, Molly, remember that sometimes even the parents are cooperative in the trafficking of their own child.
Absolutely.
Because they are hungry, they want to make money through their child, and if they feel that somebody that's well off is going to be the provision they need, they just allow their child to be exploited in that manner.
Yeah.
I think Botswana need to be aware that no matter how much you pay them, a minor is not employable.
Yes.
So they need
Yes.
to understand that, and there's actually the act that Madabuta referred to. It's available on the internet.
Yeah.
If they want to understand what child trafficking is, I do believe that they too have a responsibility to find out. You know, as the saying goes, ignorance of the law does not mean you get away with things. You know, you need to inform yourself on these issues.
Yeah. Madabuta has said it all, Kelly, and we know that a member of my family, ale well off, and they end up being the maid, they end up being the caretaker of the household over even other children that are their age, just because I'm told to be a caretaker of somebody that is not biologically my child. Botswana need to be educated, and Botswana need to be well learned when it comes to issues of this nature. I think we have summed it well, Kels, and I think we have done this topic justice by taking it through Madabuta.
Indeed, Molly, the expert she is.
Thank you so much for watching the Molls and Kells show. I hope you've been well informed, and whatever you missed today, keep educating yourself, go online, access the act, and read it further.
Remember, together we conquer, together we win.